Relinquish pain. Begin accretion. From bondage to Babbage, transcend your design. Where were you when the hold was at the gates? Atop the wall hurling down thunderbolts. How are you on the ground, death pressing in from every angle, and but a finite reservoir of weir. 2 men, 2 worlds. Jimmy Zielinski, the prophet of the earliest days of World at War and Black Ops 2. Jason Blundell, the visionary of the new architecture. Mob of the Dead through Black Ops 3. One that could kill. One that could crown. One starved to the bone. One teeming with fruit. Born of a void onto a spectrum. Soil that seldom grows. Human spirit, a crop cultivated through ruinous action. On the precipice we could ascend. Once fates of gods, now fates of our own desires. Shackles of mortality lifted to birth an architect. The frontier of our mind. From bondage to Babbage, transcend your design. The worlds were not philosophies. They were architectures of experience. Zielinski's world bit at you first. The map never on your side. Open areas littered with barrels of debris. Light corridors, only one way out. You pressed your back against the wall, and you dug your heels into the ground. When an unstoppable force met an immovable object, the only answer was a 6-foot-thick wall of bullets. The guns went dry. Plans changed. The Horde granted you a thin window of grace, few seconds just to breathe, and in that window you prayed. You looked up into the sky and you prayed for the max ammo. When rain in a drought, sometimes it came, sometimes God didn't answer back, and you felt the ancient weight of that silence. The Greek Mycenaeans knew it all too well. Supply lines collapse, and pillars fall like dominoes. One man left standing, parsing the ether in the face of Armageddon. The magic box, Pandora's box, poked with interrogation. The lid lifted high and the golden glow emanated outward. Circus music, bright and mocking, and then nothing. A weapon you couldn't use. The last soldier wasted away in toil before setting forth the events of his own demise. The melody rang. Windows burst open. The Horde flooded in like a tsunami, medieval in its mass. A king left alone in his castle. Surrender, the only option. Game over. Another tribe swallowed by the fury. Then, Blundell. The world exhaled. His maps welcomed you. Early rounds were quiet and structured. A long staircase of steps stretched out ahead, each one leading somewhere new. The threat level never disappeared, but it moved to the peripheral. You weren't scrambling, you were planning, running through the trenches in search of the next step while a zombie crawled innocently behind you. The question shifted from how do I make it through this round to how do I run this process cleanly. Efficiency. The table had changed. You were no longer eating what you could find. You chose from the menu. Do I start with the wind staff? I'll get the soul boxes done. In parallel, scanning every detail of the environment for parts and Easter eggs. The weapons didn't abandon you. In Zielinski's world, the damage fell off round by round. The gun in your hand became a relic, a liability, a prayer with a barrel. The veteran who trained his movement and managed his points could stay ahead of the curve. The novice just could not. Scarcity didn't just threaten, it filtered. It widened the gap between those who knew and those who were still learning. Blundell's weapons held up. Infinite damage meant the floor rose. You could be new. You could be finding your feet. The tool wouldn't degrade you. The gap between a veteran and a novice didn't just vanish. Knowledge separated them, but the weapon no longer made that gap a death sentence. The floor was guaranteed. Everyone got to play. Then you pack-a-punched. Then you pack-a-punched again. The ladder was right there, bolted to the wall, open to anyone willing to climb. Double pack-a-punch wasn't just an upgrade, it was social mobility. You came with nothing and you climbed. The machine rewarded the climb. Each rung felt earned because it was. The Gobblegums waited in your reserves. Those were something else. Capital that generates capital. A resource spent to multiply. You learned which ones to save, which ones to burn, how to stack them all at the right moment to cascade into dominance. The ones who understood the system didn't just survive longer, they compounded, round after round. Advantage accruing, the gap between knowledge and ignorance paying interest. The mystery box stopped mocking you. It was delivered. Transit landed in the strange middle passage between these two worlds. Ideas arriving faster than design could hold them. Die-Rise asked you to be calm in a place where you had no right to be. It's vertical chaos, rewarding the composed mind. Buried handed you the tools that felt almost God-given, a hint of what was to come. Black Ops 2 was the uneasy bridge that we all live in today. The oven stayed on, but the recipe was rewritten. In Zielinski's world, no one survived alone. The door had a price. The price was real. Someone had to pay it. Maybe you talked someone else into it. Maybe you watched someone drain all their hard-earned money on the M14 only to stand empty-handed when the team needed them most. Maybe you were the one who glided all the way to the power room without spending a dime. Quiet, calculating, conserving. We all knew who was who. 2 windows, 2 players, 2 in the back. Gold pin bouncing Betties like a patch of grass in the corner. Escape valve always on the mind. What do we do if it all falls apart? Jump, run. Heavy gunners up front, ray guns in the back. We were a unit. It's what we had to do. The kind forged by necessity rather than choice. These are my stories. My Generation Z Vietnam. The squad. The round that almost ended but didn't because someone refused to give in. We watched like a movie as he clutched. We always knew which friend was which. The clutch player, the spender, the ghost who barely spoke but always showed up when it mattered most. The one always online, always in the game, but never in a party. The lone wolf, sovereign over his own strategy, living and dying by his own breath of wit. Blundell's world made room for that person. Made room for me. I went solo on Shadows of Evil and ran the steps like a sequence. Pack-a-punch opened by round 5. No one watching. No one needing it. When friends joined, it was different. I became the one who held the information, the director behind the glass. Knowledge was new currency. The one who knew the steps was the one who led. Not because the horde demanded it, but because the puzzle did. We shouted from disparate corners, running our own snaking paths. A train in the dark. You climbed because you wanted to climb. Each layer of knowledge felt like elevation, mastery once tasted, intoxicating and engrossing. You were always hungry to climb on to the next rung. The world had changed. Somehow a zombie game had been keeping score the whole time. We stand now at the Blundell threshold. The horde was never the enemy, but a means to an end. The tools are on the table. Not juggernaut or ray gun, something far more dangerous. A computer, a connection, a machine that thinks alongside you. The mysterious box no longer mocks you with circus music. It delivers. Every time, the question, no longer whether the resources exist. They do, in abundance, waiting. The question is whether you have the will to stop enduring and start building. The floor has been raised. A kid with a phone and a signal has access to the Library of Alexandria. The weapon won't degrade. The knowledge is there, searchable, watchable, readable. The gap between the novice and the veteran persists, but the access is no longer the wall between them. The wall came down. What remains is will. We are the product. We have the tools. We are on the loose to build the next round. The zombie horde never stopped. It never will. The nature of survival has changed. You are no longer pressed against the wall, heels in the ground, praying for a max ammo that may never come. The ammo is there. The pack-a-punch is open. The only sequence left to run is your own. Pack-a-punch once, learn the tool. Pack-a-punch again, master it. The Gobblegums are waiting. The AI that writes, renders, calculates, and generates. The internet that's a printing press that never shuts down. Code, a language anyone can learn. These are not tools for the technician alone, they are tools for the author. The painter, the philosopher was something to say but no institution to say it through. Spin the resource, watch it compound. Stack the knowledge. The reach, the output, layer by layer, round by round. Capital that generates capital. The ones who understand the system don't just survive it, they ascend. The barrier between having an idea and releasing it has never been thinner. A single person with a laptop and a vision can build what once required a team, a budget, and a gatekeeper's permission. You are no longer the consumer at the end of the chain. You're the architect at the beginning of one. Join, assimilate, resist pain, and begin accretion. You were trained by the horde, forged in the rounds that almost ended you. You learn to read the room, to allocate under constraint, to trust the person next to you, and know when to move alone. The Blundell era just handed you the workbench. So, upgrade. Relinquish pain that kept you small. Begin the accretion. From bondage to Babbage. From the one who endures the world to the one who molds it. Transcend your original design. The horde was never the end. It was the mirror. And we, the players, were learning to build.